everyone, I've been cosplaying for about 5 years, and in that time I've learned a lot of different techniques on how to make costumes. I've used a lot of different materials and I've met a lot of people, but I realized recently that I actually don't know a lot of facts and a lot of the history and much about this hobby besides the people who are in it and the materials we use to pursue it. So I really wanted to do a deep dive into the research, and it was kind of actually difficult to find information. And I found 15 really cool facts that I didn't know before, and I thought I would really like to share those with you. So let's get started. The first modern fictional character cosplayed was Skygak, 1908 by Mr. and Mrs. William Fell. His wife did Mrs. Dill Pickles. Sounds sort of familiar, Rugrats. However, this character was also cosplayed by an anonymous woman a few years later at a skating masquerade. Skygak seemed to be pretty popular in the earlier 20th century. However, you might not be familiar with that cosplay because often touted the first cosplayer is Forrest Ackerman. Forrest Ackerman was the first person to wear a costume to a convention at the first Worldcon in 1939. He thought that everyone was supposed to dress up, and so he showed up in costume. The second year they had the Worldcon, they had an official costume contest that Forrest J. Ackerman was in charge of, and this was the beginning of this beautiful hobby of all of ours. The early days of costume contests were sort of like the Wild West. In the 70s, people were showing up to conventions fully nude, like a lot of nudity. And a costume contest and a con had to come out and say, no costume is no costume, because there were so many people showing up naked. There were a few other rules instituted as incidents came up, such as one person who decided to enter a costume with a working flamethrower as a part of the prop, and another person who entered a costume for a character called Mr. Turd, and the costume was made mostly out of peanut butter, and the peanut butter got on other people's costumes and started to spoil under the hot lights. So don't show up completely nude, and don't make a flamethrower, and don't make your costume out of food. Cosplay is obviously known as costume play. However, for most of the time that cosplay has been a thing, it was called costuming. The term cosplay actually comes from a report called My Anime in 1984. The cosplay industry is worth 45 billion USD. I know we spend a lot of money on our cosplays, but that's a lot of money. The largest cosplay event in the world happens in Japan. It's called Comic Market or Comet, and it happens semi-annually, and it has over 570,000 people go to this con 2 times a year. I can't imagine having that many people in one place. In the past couple of years, Worbla has become a staple in the cosplay community. Many people make their costumes out of Worbla, and some even have their costumes melt in hot cars in Florida. However, there is a flame red Worbla, which is specifically flame resistant to be used in theaters, and I had no idea. I'd never heard of that before. EVA foam is used in many crafters' arsenal, such as props and armor, and I use it all the time. However, EVA is also found in cigarettes, so when people say you should use a respirator, you really should use a respirator. That stuff is very toxic. Patreon has become a staple for cosplayers to be able to support their hobbies and to be able to work in cosplay full-time. It is a very expensive hobby. If you look up cosplayers on Patreon, you'll find 1,000 creators and 16,000 pledges for a mass of $34,000 a month, not including hidden earnings. However, if you look up adult cosplayers, you will find 62,000 pledges for $62,000 a month. What can you say? Sex sells. There's a lot of cosplay and works of fiction. However, my favorite that I decided to feature in this video was that at one point Superman and Lois Lane dress up as Batman and Robin for a costume party. Superman's pretty concerned about Batman genuinely murdering him. However, when they show up to the party, everyone knows that it's Clark Kent but somehow they don't know he's Superman. Cryptocurrency has skyrocketed in recent years, and cosplay is not isolated from that. There is a cosplay blockchain being developed, and it's called Cosplay Token. They want to get in on that $45 billion market. While there are a few cosplayers in this world who can do it full time, the top cosplayer in Japan made $273,000 USD last year. Holy crap. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, there are several cosplayers that have world records, two of which are the tallest cosplay, which is 2.9 meters by Extreme Costumes, as well as most functional gadgets, which is 23 functional gadgets on a Batman costume by Julian Checkley. Disney has some pretty strict rules of what you are and are not allowed to wear in their parks, especially if you're over the age of 14. You're not allowed to wear cosplays in there. If you wear a costume to their costume-specific event, there are rules that you have to follow. And one of those rules is that you are not allowed to have your dress touching the ground and a cape past your butt. Okay, Disney. You do you. And lastly, according to the largest cosplay study done to date, statistically speaking, if you are a cosplayer in North America, you are 76.6% likely to be a female, you are 62.6% probably straight, and you are 97.4% likely to be Canadian or American. I'm sorry, Mexico, I didn't make the rules. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys learned something in this video. If you learned something new, or maybe you have something that I didn't list here and you knew about, leave me a comment, a like, and subscribe and follow me on my social media. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great day, and cosplay on. We really spend a lot of money. Like, that could build 9 Donald Trump walls.